I'm Kristen Denny-Chambers, clarinetist, composer, and founder of Clarinet Playground. This is video number 35 out of 40, going through all of the etudes in Finger Fitness Études Book 2. This one is for Simon Says. Simon Says is dedicated to Simon Foo. He began his music education playing the tuba, piano, and singing, and then he moved on to pursue clarinet seriously. Under the tuition of the Singapore Youth Orchestra, he was able to study with many orchestral clarinetists. From 1993 to 1996, Mr. Foo represented Singapore, playing the clarinet in the ASEAN Youth Symphonic Band as co-concertmaster. He also performed with the WASBE International Wind Orchestra in Spain under the baton of legendary maestro Dr. Alfred Reed. Later, Simon was a full-time musician with the Singapore Armed Forces Central Band and Navy Band. As a versatile musician, Mr. Foo plays many different genres of music and often plays in musical productions and local jazz groups. Simon studied band directing at the National Institution of Education, and he graduated with the highest marks from his cohort. Currently, he teaches band and woodwinds in various primary and secondary schools in Singapore and at the Yamaha Music School. I crossed paths with Simon, I think it was just a little bit before the pandemic, when the Etude of the Week groups were starting to pop up on Facebook. And he's a wonderful player, a funny person, and now we have all these other groups that we've created, and he's a big part of them. He performs in the Etude of the Week group, he records often in the Clarinet Playground group, and now he runs his own group, a Tune a Week clarinet literature group, so be sure to check that out too. Simon has a beautiful sound, and I thought this etude just really helped to showcase his character because it's kind of fun and jazzy, and I hope you'll enjoy it too. Let's take a look at the music. At the bottom of the page, you'll find one or two practice tips. On the right side, it says plan fingerings thoughtfully. At times, the fork or side fingerings are best, but other times you may need to flip. I'll go over that in more detail later. Down below on the left side, it says study typical jazz articulations in order to apply the appropriate style. Try using dood'n tonguing for the notes in parentheses and ad-lib as desired. Of course, read page 75 for some more jazz tips, and we will cover this idea a little bit later. Now let's take a look at the finger drills at the top of the page. There's always two of them, and this is what's folded right into the music, so spend some time here. We want to make sure you're really comfortable. Again, we are connecting registers as we continue through this book, so as we go F sharp to C, we are involving lots of fingers moving, and that thumb needs to be very efficient as it closes down, and you add all the fingers of the right hand for the C. You could anchor the C key, this one right here, you could anchor that down, and that might help as you go back and forth in the drill. And another thing that I like to do is I'll start on the upper note, make sure my sound is really well established, nice fast air, hold that upper note, and then go through the drill. For the style and character of this etude, we have quick and light with pizzazz, whatever that means to you, and we are swinging the eighth notes. And then also there are some very significant dynamic contrasts and phrasing, and that's so critical. Notice at the beginning, it's like an echo. We have forte and then we have piano, and then down at measure 25, we have a very dramatic crescendo from piano all the way to forte. Now as we take a look at the rhythm, it looks way simpler than it is because we mostly have quarter notes and eighth notes and a few longer held rhythms, usually at the ends of phrases. But because we have the jazz style and we're swinging these eighth notes, it makes things a little bit trickier. I'll play this first example very slowly. We have a lot of long, short, with housetop accents that are nice and crisp. Now I'll take a look at measure 31, measure 7, and measure 37. These are a little bit tricky. They have a lot of tied rhythms in there, and sometimes it's the last eighth note tying into the downbeat of the next measure. So you have to really be on your toes and ready for those. 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. Oh, one, two, three. As we look more in depth at the beginning and the long short idea, we also have these dramatic dynamic contrasts. So we want to make sure we're playing nice and forte and then a really good piano echo, and that keeps happening over and over again. And we also want to choose our pinky fingerings ahead of time. That way we don't get stuck in a tangle. Also, I wanted to showcase more of these upbeat entrances, measure 7 and then measure 13. I'm going to compare measure 9 to 13 and notice how they're different. So at measure 9 is where the main theme comes in, and then that theme comes back, or it's repeated basically in measure 13, but with that upbeat entrance. So it's a little bit different there. So I'll do measure 7, measure 9 for comparison, and measure 13. 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. One, two, three. As we look at the middle section, we have more upbeat entrances and unexpected ties. 1, 2, 3. Then I feel like it's important to point out that there's a difference between measure 37 and measure 41. Watch out because it might trick you. Really make sure you're counting there. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we'll go over some pinky choices and fingering choices that I think work well with this etude. If you have a clarinet with the alternate E-flat key, you have more choices, of course, but I'm going to go assuming that you have a standard clarinet. So in measure 9, I start on the left side for F sharp, right side for G sharp, go up the scale, and then when you get to measure 10, you have some flexibility. You can play your C's however you want, C then C sharp. But what I think about is looking forward to measure 13. Notice we have the same pattern, left for F sharp, right for G sharp, going up the scale again. Same figure, C, F sharp, C sharp. So the C natural is flexible, but I like to end the C sharp on the right side because then we have the low left C sharp. Now it could stay flexible because there is that eighth rest before the low C sharp. So it's really up to you and your comfort. I tend to favor the right side. If you've watched my videos, you kind of know that by now. So I tend to favor that right side when I can and only the left when I absolutely have to. Then if we look at measure 11, we are dealing with the side key stuff. So measure 11, measure 23. Most of these F sharp, E sharp figures can use the side key. Sometimes you can flip. It really just depends on how you want to go about it. But in measure 11, you could stick it all on the side key. So you have C sharp, B, A, G sharp, A. You can go directly to your side key, F sharp, which is your thumb, the bottom two side keys. Tongue it again for the next note, go to thumb for the E sharp, side key again for the F sharp, and then up to the G sharp. Then in measure 23, very similar, we have the A, G sharp, side key, let go for thumb, back to side key, left for your C sharp. I didn't really mark that, but I don't think it was necessary. And then up to thumb for the E sharp, C sharp again, up to thumb for the E sharp, and then add the side keys for the last part of that bit. I'll play these examples just so you have them in your ear, but mostly want to look ahead and mark in your fingerings, make those choices ahead of time. In measure 37, here's a place where I do go to my standard F sharp fingering, front or top, however you want to label that in your brain. I usually think top for some reason, so I label it top. It's also fewer letters for the word top. But in 37, I'll start with the thumb for the E sharp, go to the side key, G sharp, A, G sharp, regular F sharp, G sharp, side key, thumb. Now you could do side key the whole way through that if you want to, but I think it's a little more clumsy to do it when you don't have to do it. So I usually go for the top or the front fingering there. Then in measure 39, we get to tackle the upper versions of the E sharp, F sharp figures. Really, I think this is the only time it appears. So we have A and then G sharp. Then I go to the fork fingering, so that K is the fork fingering. And then first finger for E sharp, and then flip to my middle finger F sharp, and then C sharp, back up to first finger for E sharp, C sharp, first finger E sharp, and then fork F sharp for the last note of that measure. All right, now the last thing that we'll talk about is that jazz style dood'n tonguing and a little bit of ad lib. So dood'n tonguing is a technique in jazz, and I'm going to first start by saying my general disclaimer that I'm about 5% jazz, but I have done some studying on this and I've had some help on it. So dood'n tonguing, it kind of sounds the way dood'n sounds. So you play the note and then you sort of mute the note by putting your tongue against the reed, sort of an in sound, and the note still comes out, but it's faded a little bit, or it's a little bit murky, or kind of hidden, or swallowed, or ghosted, as some people might say, and that gives it a really cool style. And you'll see in measure 17, 22, 27, and 39 how there are some notes in parentheses where you could try this idea. You could put it in other places too, but these are some places that made sense and the only ones that I actually marked in the etude. So I've also found some great videos describing this by real jazz people, so I will put those videos down in the notes so you can check those out and hear a little bit maybe better descriptions of them with some good examples, but I'll do my best here. So I'll go through these 4 examples and then we'll talk about ad lib. Now I just wanted to point out that you can have some freedom in this etude. You can ad-lib as you see fit. One really fun idea is in measure 9, actually measure 10, the downbeat. You can add a little triplet figure, C to C sharp, back to C, and that adds a nice little gesture. Now for some final thoughts. Simon Says includes a lot of musical echoes, which is sort of a nod to the game of Simon Says. Simon says something, and then it's your turn. West Side Story fans may also get a little tickle in their ear on the main finger drill figure at the beginning, has a little bit of that in there. And the etude also has a jazz influence with swinging eighth notes, so be sure to review page 75 for jazz tips. It is a finger twister and it will give you a good workout, but mostly have fun with it. To listen to a beautiful recording of this etude and all other etudes from this book, head over to my website, clarinetplayground.com. Trevor Stewart has recorded all 40 etudes beautifully, and they are available for purchase there on my website. Feel free to join us in the Clarinet Playground group on Facebook where we play and post for each other, and head over to my website at clarinetplayground.com for more fun music and books. Thank you so much. Pizzazz is however you want to interpret that, but just something like light and spunky and fun and fresh and lots of extra words that I'm going to cut.